Jake Morrison stood at the observation window of his dormitory, watching the stars spin slowly past. The massive space station that housed the Galactic Defense Academy moved through space like a small moon, its metal corridors home to 200 of the galaxy's finest young warriors. Jake pressed his hand against the cool glass and sighed. Sometimes he wondered what he was doing here. The Academy floated in orbit around Centros Prime, a world that belonged to no single species. It was neutral ground where 17 different alien races sent their best and brightest to learn how to fight together. The idea was simple enough. If young beings from different worlds could learn to trust each other, maybe their species could avoid the wars that had torn apart other parts of the galaxy. Jake was 19 years old and the only human in his class. Earth had only made contact with the galactic community 5 years ago, and this was humanity's first attempt to join the Defense Corps. Most of the other cadets treated him with polite curiosity, like he was an interesting pet that could talk. He turned away from the window and looked at his small room. The bed was too long for him, designed for the tall, thin Vexari who could run faster than a racing car. The desk was too low, built for the squat, powerful Dwargi who could lift a shuttle with their bare hands. Everything on the station reminded Jake that he did not quite fit in. A soft chime indicated someone was at his door. Jake opened it to find his roommate, a Kralix named Corks. The insect-like alien stood 7 feet tall, his dark shell gleaming under the corridor lights. 4 arms hung at his sides, each ending in hands that could crush steel. His large compound eyes reflected the light like jewels. "Morrison," Corks said in his clicking voice, "you have been staring out the window again. This behavior concerns me." Jake smiled. Corks always spoke like he was giving a military report, but over the past 6 months, Jake had learned to hear the friendship underneath the formal words. "Just thinking about home. Earth is many light years away. Thinking about it will not change your location. I know, but sometimes I wonder if I belong here." Corks's head tilted to one side. "You performed adequately in combat training today. Your plasma rifle accuracy was 73%. This is acceptable." "Acceptable," Jake repeated. "That's about the best I can hope for, isn't it?" The truth was hard to ignore. In physical training, Jake could barely keep up with the slowest cadets. His Krelix classmates could run twice as fast and lift 3 times as much weight. The Vexari moved like lightning, and the Saurians had reflexes that made them nearly impossible to hit in combat practice. The psychic Zelani could read thoughts and move objects with their minds. Humans seemed to be good at solving puzzles and fixing broken equipment, but those skills did not impress anyone at a military academy. Jake often felt like he was playing a game where everyone else knew rules he had never learned. "Commander Vex wishes to see you," Cork said. "He waits in Training Bay 7. Jake nodded and grabbed his uniform jacket. Commander Vex was a Saurian, one of the reptilian race that ran most of the Academy's combat programs. He was 12 feet long from nose to tail, with scales that changed color based on his mood. Right now, as Jake entered the training bay, those scales were a neutral gray-green. "Cadet Morrison," the commander said without looking up from his datapad. "Your final trial approaches." "Yes, sir. 3 days." "The arena of trials is not a game, human. The creatures we place in that dome have killed experienced warriors. They are real monsters, captured from the most dangerous worlds in the galaxy." Jake had heard about the arena from other cadets. It was the final test that every student had to pass before graduating. The Academy would release one of their captured beasts, and the cadet would have to survive long enough to prove they could handle themselves in real combat. Some cadets killed the creatures, others simply managed to avoid them until the safety systems kicked in. A few had died over the years. "I understand, sir." Commander Vex finally looked at him. The Saurian's large yellow eyes showed no emotion. "Do you? Your people have only known about the galaxy for 5 years. These creatures have been terrorizing colonies for thousands of years. The shadow maw you will face has acid for blood and claws that can cut through battle armor. It can become invisible and move through solid walls. I've studied the files, sir. Studying files is not the same as facing a monster that wants to eat you." The commander's scales shifted to orange, a sign of irritation. I have sent a message to your instructors on Earth. I recommend you withdraw from the program and return home. There is no shame in admitting you are not ready. Jake felt heat rise in his chest. This was not the first time someone had suggested he quit. Sir, with respect, I'm not withdrawing. You will almost certainly fail. Maybe. But I'm going to try. Commander Vex stared at him for a long moment. Then his scales returned to neutral gray-green. Very well. Report to the arena in 3 days at dawn cycle. Do not embarrass your species, more than necessary. Jake left the training bay feeling angry and determined in equal measure. He walked through the station's main corridor, past groups of cadets from different worlds. A cluster of Vexari moved like dancers, their conversation too fast for Jake to follow. 3 Dwargi arm-wrestled at a table, their laughter booming off the metal walls. A group of Zelani sat in perfect silence, communicating through thought, alone. Jake found himself in the station's observation lounge, a large room with windows on all sides. Stars and nebulae painted the darkness in brilliant colors. He was not alone. A few other cadets sat at tables, some studying, others just watching space go by. You look troubled, human. Jake turned to see Zara, one of the Zelani. She was humanoid, but taller than Jake, with pale blue skin and large dark eyes. The Zelani were psychic, but Zara had always been polite about not reading his thoughts without permission. Just thinking about the trial, Jake said. You fear the arena. Everyone fears the arena. The smart ones, anyway. Zara sat down across from him. Perhaps, but I sense something else in you. Not fear of death, but fear of failure. Jake nodded. If I fail, it proves that humans don't belong out here. We're too weak, too slow, too ordinary. Your people survived on a world with predators, did they not? I have read about Earth's tigers and bears and sharks. You are not as helpless as you believe. Those were just animals. The things in the arena are monsters. Zara was quiet for a moment. I cannot read the creatures in the Academy's collection. Their minds are different, alien in ways that even we psychics cannot understand. But I have noticed something curious. What? They react strangely to human scent. Dr. Rodriguez brings biological samples to study, and when she passes their containment area, the creatures become agitated. Not aggressive exactly. More like recognition. Jake frowned. Recognition of what? I do not know. But perhaps your trial will be different than you expect. That night, Jake lay in his bed staring at the ceiling. Tomorrow he would send a message to his family on Earth. His sister Katie had been accepted into a prestigious university program to study alien biology. His parents were proud of both their children reaching for the stars. He thought about Commander Vex's words. Maybe the Saurian was right, maybe humans were not ready for this. But Jake had not come this far just to give up because someone else thought he could not succeed. He had 3 days to prepare for the most important test of his life. 3 days to prove that humanity deserved a place among the stars. 3 days to face a monster and somehow survive. Jake closed his eyes and tried to sleep. In 3 days he would step into the arena. What happened then would determine not just his future, but possibly the future of his entire species. The stakes could not be higher, and Jake Morrison was as ready as he would ever be. The morning of Jake's trial arrived with the artificial dawn that lit up the Academy's corridors. He had barely slept, but his mind felt sharp and clear. After a quick shower and a light breakfast that he could barely taste, Jake made his way to the preparation chambers near the arena of trials. The arena was the largest structure on the Academy station. From the outside, it looked like a massive metal dome that could have held a small city. Inside, advanced technology could recreate any environment from across the galaxy. Desert worlds, frozen moons, toxic swamps, or the vacuum of space itself. Today, Jake would face his trial in whatever setting the Academy computers chose for him. Dr. Elena Rodriguez waited for him in the preparation room. She was the only other human on the station, a scientist who studied alien life forms for the Academy. Jake had spoken with her a few times, but she usually seemed too busy with her research to spend time with the cadets. "Jake," she said, looking up from a tablet covered with biological data. "How are you feeling?" "Ready as I'll ever be," he replied, though his hands shook slightly as he put on his combat armor. Dr. Rodriguez watched him carefully. "I've been studying the creature you'll face today. The Shadow Maw is unlike anything on Earth. It's not just a predator. It's something that evolved on a world where being the strongest hunter meant the difference between survival and extinction." Jake sealed the chest plate of his armor and checked the power readings. "Any advice?" "Don't try to think like a human. When you face it, these creatures operate on instincts that are millions of years old. They understand dominance, territory, and pack behavior, but not in ways we might expect." She handed him a standard plasma rifle and a combat knife. The weapons felt heavy in his hands but familiar after months of training. "Jake, there's something else. Something I've noticed in my research." "What is it?" Dr. Rodriguez hesitated. "The creatures we keep here, they behave differently when humans are around. I've been documenting it, but I haven't told the Academy. Staff yet, I'm not sure what it means." Before Jake could ask more questions, a voice came over the intercom system. "Cadet Morrison, report to Arena Entry Port 3. Trial begins in 10 minutes. Jake took a deep breath and headed for the door. "Wish me luck, Doc." "You won't need luck," Dr. Rodriguez said quietly. "But you might need to trust your instincts." The entry port was a small chamber with thick metal walls. Jake could hear machinery humming as the arena's systems prepared his trial environment. Through a small window, he could see into the observation deck, where his instructors and classmates would watch his performance. Commander Vex stood at the main control panel, his scales a professional gray-green. Ambassador Korvac, the Kralix representative, watched with his 4 arms crossed over his chest. Several dozen cadets pressed against the observation windows, some placing bets on how long Jake would survive. "Attention, Cadet Morrison, Commander." Vex's voice came through the speakers. "Your trial environment is the cave system of Hellion 7. Atmospheric conditions are toxic to most life forms, but your suit will provide protection. The temperature is 40 degrees above normal human comfort range. Visibility is limited due to sulfur clouds." Jake nodded, adjusting his helmet's display to show environmental readings. "Your opponent is a Shadow Maw. Designation Alpha 7. This creature was captured after it destroyed a mining colony on Kepler Station. It has killed 14 trained soldiers and injured 37 others. Your trial begins when the entry doors open. You may use any means necessary to survive for a minimum of 10 minutes. Good luck, Cadet." The entry port's inner door hissed open and Jake stepped into hell. The arena had transformed into an exact replica of the caves on Hellion 7. Jagged rocks jutted from the floor and ceiling like broken teeth. Yellow sulfur gas drifted through the air, making it hard to see more than 20 feet in any direction. The ground was covered with sharp crystal formations that crunched under Jake's boots. Emergency lighting cast everything in a red glow that made the shadows dance and shift. Jake's suit immediately began filtering the toxic air, and he could hear the soft hum of the cooling system working to keep him from overheating. For the first minute, nothing happened. Jake moved carefully through the cave system, his rifle ready, scanning for any sign of movement. The Shadow Maw could be anywhere. It could phase through solid rock, becoming invisible and intangible at will. It could be watching him right now from inside the cave walls. Then Jake felt it. A presence. Something massive and predatory, moving through the darkness with deadly grace. The temperature dropped noticeably, and frost began forming on the crystal formations around him. The Shadow Maw materialized from the wall to Jake's left. It was even larger than the files had indicated. 12 feet tall and covered in scales that looked like polished black glass. Its claws were as long as Jake's forearm, and sharp enough to cut through battle armor like paper. Rows of serrated teeth filled a mouth that could bite a man in half. Yellow eyes glowed with an intelligence that was both alien and terrifying. In the observation deck, the watchers leaned forward. Some of the cadets gasped. Ambassador Korvac's chitinous plates began rattling, a sign of extreme nervousness among his people. The Shadow Maw took a step toward Jake, then another, Its claws scraped against the stone floor, sending sparks flying. Acidic drool fell from its mouth, hissing where it hit the ground. Jake stood perfectly still. He did not raise his rifle or move toward the emergency exits that were marked by glowing green lights. He simply watched the creature with calm, steady eyes. The Shadow Maw's advance slowed, its massive head tilted to one side, studying the small human before it. The predatory gleam in its eyes changed to something else, something that looked almost like recognition. Jake took a slow breath and let his rifle lower slightly. Not dropping it, but showing that he was not immediately aggressive. The creature's claws, which had been extended for attack, retracted just a little. "What is happening?" Ambassador Korvac whispered in the observation deck. Commander Vex stared at his instruments. "All readings are normal. The creature is not malfunctioning." The Shadow Maw stopped advancing completely. It stood 10 feet from Jake, close enough to kill him in a single lunge, but making no move to attack. Instead, it continued to study him with those glowing yellow eyes. Jake could feel something happening that he did not understand. It was like the moment when a wild dog decides whether to attack or to listen. There was a conversation taking place, but not with words. It was something deeper, older, more basic than language. Slowly, carefully, Jake took a step forward. The watchers in the observation deck held their breath. Several cadets covered their eyes, certain they were about to see their human classmate torn apart. But the Shadow Maw did not attack. Instead, it took a step backward, lowering its head slightly. Jake took another step forward. The creature backed up again, and this time there was no mistaking the gesture. The Shadow Maw was showing submission. "This is impossible, Commander," Vex said. Jake continued his slow approach until he was close enough to touch the creature. The Shadow Maw had lowered itself closer to the ground. Its neck stretched out in a posture that every species in the galaxy recognized as surrender. Jake reached out with one gloved hand and gently touched the creature's head. The Shadow Maw pressed against his touch like a massive, terrifying pet seeking affection. The observation deck erupted in shocked voices speaking a dozen different languages. Ambassador Korvac was frantically trying to contact his homeworld. Dr. Rodriguez pressed against the observation window, her face pale with amazement. Jake's voice came through the arena's communication system, calm and steady. "Commander Vex." "Sir?" "Yes, Cadet?" The Saurian's voice was strained. "I'd like to try something. Can you bring in another one?" The request sent a wave of panic through the observation deck. Protocol had never covered this situation. No cadet had ever made such a request. No one had ever survived long enough to make such a request. Commander Vex looked at Ambassador Korvac, who was still rattling his plates in distress. Other instructors began urgent discussions in their native languages. "Cadet Morrison, Commander," Vex finally said, "are you certain about this request?" "Yes, sir. I think I understand what's happening now." After several minutes of heated debate, the Academy staff made a decision that went against every safety protocol they had ever established. They opened a second containment unit. A Void Ripper slithered into the arena. This creature was completely different from the Shadow Maw. It looked like a serpent made of liquid shadow, 30 feet long and able to tear holes in space itself. Its presence made reality bend and twist around it. Jake watched as the Void Ripper emerged into the cave system. The creature's attention immediately focused on the human standing calmly beside the now docile Shadow Maw. The same thing happened again. The Void Ripper approached, its form shifting and changing as it moved through dimensions that normal beings could not see. But as it drew closer to Jake, its aggressive posture changed. The tiers in space around it began to close. Its serpentine form settled into a more stable shape. Like the Shadow Maw before it, the Void Ripper lowered itself in submission and took its place beside Jake. In the observation deck, Ambassador Korvac was shouting into his communication device in the clicking language of his people. "Doctor." The arena fell completely silent. Even the hum of the life support system seemed quieter than before. Jake stood between two of the galaxy's most dangerous creatures, both of them kneeling before him like faithful dogs. His hand rested on the Shadow Maw's head while the Void Ripper coiled nearby, its serpentine form perfectly still. In the observation deck, chaos had broken out. Commander Vex's scales had turned bright orange, a color that meant extreme confusion among his people. Ambassador Korvac was shouting into his communication device, trying to reach the Kralix military command. Other instructors argued in a dozen different languages, their voices rising as they tried to understand what they were seeing. Dr. Rodriguez pushed through the crowd of cadets and instructors until she reached the main control panel. Her face had gone completely white, and her hands shook as she grabbed Commander Vex's arm. "Commander, you need to stop this right now," she said. "Dr. Rodriguez, what is the meaning of this? Your human has somehow managed to make these creatures submit, but I do not understand how." "That's exactly the problem," she replied. "I don't think any of us really understood what we were dealing with." Jake's voice came through the communication system again. "I can hear you up there. I think Dr. Rodriguez knows what's happening. Maybe she should explain it." Commander Vex looked at the human scientist. "Well, what is your explanation for this impossible situation?" Dr. Rodriguez took a deep breath and activated the communication system so her voice would carry to the arena. "Jake, before I explain anything, I need to ask you something. How do you feel right now? What's going through your mind?" Jake considered the question while gently stroking the Shadow Maw's scaled head. "I feel calm, like this is completely normal, like this is how things should be." "Do you feel like you're controlling them?" "No. It's more like we understand each other. Like we're speaking the same language but not with words." Dr. Rodriguez nodded grimly. "That's what I was afraid of." She turned to address the room full of instructors and cadets. 5 years ago, when Earth first made contact with the galactic community, we shared information about our planet's biology. We told you about our animals, our evolution, our history, but I don't think anyone really understood what that information meant. Ambassador Korvac stopped shouting into his communication device. "Explain." "These creatures down there," Dr. Rodriguez pointed toward the arena, "they're not just random monsters. They're apex predators. They're the top of the food chain on their respective worlds. They evolved to be the ultimate hunters, the most dangerous things in their environments." Commander Vex's tail lashed with impatience. "We know this already. That is why they are so dangerous. But here's what you didn't know about Earth," Dr. Rodriguez continued. "Humans didn't just evolve alongside apex predators. We evolved to dominate them." The room fell quiet. Jake's voice came from the arena, curious but not surprised. "What do you mean, Doc?" "Think about Earth's history, Jake. Humans have been living with creatures like these for hundreds of thousands of years. Wolves, bears, big cats, sharks. Every continent on Earth had predators that could kill a human easily, but instead of hiding from them or just trying to avoid them, humans learned to make them submit." She pulled up a holographic display showing images from Earth, pictures of humans with dogs, horses, and even big cats in captivity. Other species in the galaxy either avoid their apex predators or fight them to extinction. Humans did something different. We made them into partners. Ambassador Korvac's plates were rattling again. "You are saying that humans can naturally dominate predatory species?" "I'm saying that humans evolved a specific set of instincts and abilities that allow us to establish dominance over apex predators. We call it animal training or pet keeping, but it's actually much deeper than that. It's a psychic signature, a way of thinking and behaving that tells predators we're the ones in charge." Jake's voice carried a note of understanding. "The pack. Leader instinct." "Exactly. On Earth, humans became the ultimate pack leaders. We didn't just join existing packs. We created new ones with ourselves at the top. Wolves became dogs. Wild horses became work animals. Even creatures that don't naturally form packs learned to follow human leadership." Commander Vex stared at the display showing humans with various Earth animals. "But these creatures in our collection are not from Earth. They have never encountered humans before." "That's the terrifying part," Dr. Rodriguez said quietly. "The instinct recognizes something deeper than species. These creatures can sense that Jake is an apex predator who dominates other apex predators. To them, That makes him the ultimate alpha. Down in the arena, Jake nodded slowly. Feels natural, like this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Because it is, Dr. Rodriguez replied. Every human carries this instinct. We've been doing this for 200,000 years. It's built into our psychology, our body language, even our scent. The implications of her words hit the observation deck like a physical blow. If every human had this ability, then humanity wasn't just another species joining the galactic community. They were potentially the most dangerous species the galaxy had ever encountered. Ambassador Korvac finally found his voice. How many humans are there on your world? 8 billion, Dr. Rodriguez answered. 8 billion beings who can dominate. Apex predators. In theory, yes, though most humans have never tested the ability on creatures this dangerous. Jake's voice interrupted their conversation. Commander Vex, I'd like to make another request. The Saurian commander's scales had turned a pale yellow, indicating fear. What is it, Cadet? I want to try something bigger. Can you release all of them at once? The observation deck erupted in panicked voices. All of them meant 17 different captured creatures. The Academy's collection included things that had destroyed entire space stations, wiped out colonies, and terrorized fleets of warships. Absolutely not, Commander Vex said immediately. That would be suicide. Would it? Jake asked calmly. Or would it prove something important? Dr. Rodriguez stepped forward. Jake, we don't know if your ability has limits. These creatures get more dangerous when they're together. Some of them are hive minds. Others are energy beings that feed on living matter. I understand the risks, Doc, but I think this is important. Not just for me, but for humanity's future in the galaxy. Ambassador Korvac was frantically typing on his communication device. I am requesting immediate military backup. If this human can control our most dangerous captured creatures, the Kralix Empire needs to know about it. You're afraid of us, Jake observed from the arena. Should we not be? Korvac replied honestly. Jake was quiet for a moment, still gently touching the Shadow Maw's head. I don't want anyone to be afraid, but I think we need to understand what's happening here. And the only way to do that is to test it properly. Commander Vex looked around the observation deck at the faces of instructors and cadets from 17 different species. All of them looked terrified. This goes against every safety protocol we have ever established. Sometimes you have to break the rules to find the truth, Jake said. Dr. Rodriguez closed her eyes. If we're going to do this, we need to do it right. Full medical monitoring, emergency containment systems ready, and evacuation procedures on standby. You are agreeing to this madness? Commander Vex asked. I'm a scientist, she replied. And this might be the most important discovery in galactic history. We need to know what humans are truly capable of. After 20 minutes of heated debate and frantic communication with various homeworlds, the Academy staff reached a decision that would change everything. They would release all 17 creatures at once. Jake stood in the center of the arena, surrounded by the 2 creatures that had already submitted to him. His heart was beating faster now, but his mind remained calm. He could feel something, building, an instinct that came from deep in humanity's evolutionary past. Are you ready, Cadet? Commander Vex asked over the communication system. I'm ready, Jake replied. The containment doors began to open, one by one, and Jake Morrison prepared to face the most dangerous creatures in the known galaxy. The first creature to emerge was the crystal spider, a being made entirely of living glass that could walk through solid walls. It materialized from the arena floor like a nightmare made real, its 8 legs clicking against the stone as sharp as breaking glass. Its body was transparent, showing the pulsing energy that served as its heart. Jake watched it approach without moving. The crystal spider moved with deadly grace, each step calculated to cause maximum fear in its prey. But as it drew closer to Jake, something changed. The creature's aggressive posture shifted. Its razor-sharp legs retracted slightly, and it lowered, its glass body closer to the ground. Like the others before it, the crystal spider took its place in the growing circle around Jake. The second containment door opened, releasing the plasma eater. This creature had no solid form at all. It was pure energy, wrapped in a vaguely humanoid shape, crackling with electricity that could drain the power from an entire ship. The temperature in the arena rose 10 degrees as it floated into the cave system, the energy being paused when it sensed Jake's presence. Its crackling form grew calmer, the dangerous electrical discharge fading to a soft glow. It settled to the ground and joined the circle. One by one, 17 of the galaxy's most feared monsters entered the arena. There was the hive swarm, millions of insect-like creatures that moved as a single mind. The Bone Crusher, a massive beast covered in spikes that could punch through starship hulls. The Mind Ripper, a psychic predator that fed on thoughts and memories. The Stellar Devourer, an ancient creature that had once consumed an entire space station. Each one approached Jake with deadly intent. Each one changed its behavior when it came close to the human cadet. Each one took its place in the circle, kneeling or crouching or floating in positions of submission. The observation deck had gone completely silent. Cadets from 17 different species pressed against the windows, staring at a sight that should have been impossible. Ambassador Korvac had stopped trying to contact his homeworld and simply stood frozen, his forearms hanging at his sides. Commander Vex's scales had turned white, a color that meant complete shock among his people. "This cannot be happening," he whispered. Dr. Rodriguez was frantically taking notes on her tablet, documenting everything she saw. "Jake," she called through the communication system. "How do you feel? Any strain? Any difficulty maintaining control?" Jake's voice came back calm and steady. "I'm not controlling anything, Doc. We're just understanding each other." To prove his point, Jake raised his hand and pointed toward a section of the arena. The entire group of creatures moved in that direction without hesitation. When he gestured for them to stop, they did. When he pointed back to their original positions, they returned there immediately. "It's like they want to follow me," Jake explained. "Like this is what feels natural to them." "Impossible," Ambassador Korvac finally managed to say. "The Kralix Empire has been fighting creatures like these for thousands of years. We have lost entire fleets. How is one untrained human doing what our greatest warriors could never accomplish?" Dr. Rodriguez looked up from her tablet. "Because you've been trying to fight them. Jake isn't fighting, he's leading." She activated the communication system again. "Jake, I want you to try something. See if you can get them to perform specific tasks. Something that shows they're not just submitting but actually cooperating." Jake nodded and turned to the shadow maw beside him. Without speaking, he pointed to a large boulder on the other side of the arena. The creature immediately understood and moved to the boulder. Using its massive claws, it carefully moved the rock to a new position. Next, Jake gestured to the crystal spider. The glass creature responded by creating intricate patterns in the stone floor, carving designs with surgical precision. The plasma eater, following Jake's silent direction, provided gentle lighting that illuminated the entire arena without the harsh glare of the emergency systems. The other creatures performed equally complex tasks. The Bone Crusher used its incredible strength to rearrange the cave formations. The Mind Ripper used its psychic abilities to organize small objects without touching them. The Hive Swarm worked together to create complex geometric patterns on the ground. Every creature in the arena was following Jake's instructions with the enthusiasm of pets eager to please their master. "They're not just obeying," Dr. Rodriguez breathed. "They're happy to be following him." "Happy?" Commander Vex asked. "These are monsters that kill for sport." "No," Jake said from the arena. "They kill because they're confused and angry. They don't understand their place in the universe. But when they have clear leadership, they want to be helpful." He demonstrated by having the Stellar Devourer, the most dangerous creature in the Academy's collection, gently pick up small rocks and arrange them in neat piles. The ancient beast, which had once devoured an entire mining station, performed the simple task with careful precision. "This changes everything," Ambassador Korvac said quietly. "If humans can do this, then they are not just another species joining our community. They are the most dangerous beings we have ever encountered." "Dangerous how?" Dr. Rodriguez asked. Think about it, Korvac replied, his plates rattling with anxiety. Every species in the galaxy has learned to fear these creatures. We build weapons to fight them. We develop strategies to avoid them. We lose ships and colonies to them. But humans can simply make them into pets. Commander Vex nodded slowly. The military implications are staggering. A human fleet accompanied by tamed monsters would be unstoppable. That's not what this is about, Jake called from the arena. I'm not trying to create weapons, I'm trying to show you that these creatures don't have to be enemies. He walked to the center of the circle, surrounded by 17 creatures that could have destroyed the entire Academy station. Look at them. They're not angry anymore, they're not trying to escape or attack. They just needed someone to understand them. Dr. Rodriguez was furiously typing notes. Jake's right. Look at their body language. These creatures are displaying behaviors we've never seen before. Contentment, cooperation, even something that looks like joy. The hive swarm had created a beautiful mandala pattern on the ground. The crystal spider was creating delicate sculptures from the cave formations. The plasma eater was generating soft, warm light that made the entire arena feel peaceful instead of threatening. How many humans know about this ability? Ambassador Korvac asked. None, Dr. Rodriguez admitted. We've never tested it. On Earth, humans work with domesticated animals that were bred over thousands of years to be cooperative. We never tried to dominate truly wild apex predators. But the potential is there, in all humans. As far as I can tell, yes. It's part of our evolutionary psychology. Ambassador Korvac activated his communication device. I must inform my government immediately. This discovery will change the balance of power in the entire galaxy. Wait, Jake said from the arena. Before you do that, let me show you something else. He walked to the edge of the circle and sat down on a large rock. Immediately, several of the creatures moved closer to him. The Shadowmaw rested its massive head in Jake's lap like a giant dog. The crystal spider created a delicate sculpture nearby, as if offering a gift. The plasma eater dimmed its glow to a comfortable level for human eyes. They're not weapons, Jake said softly. They're just lost. They've been captured and caged and treated like monsters for so long that they forgot how to be anything else. But they remember now. The Mind Ripper, the psychic creature that fed on thoughts, approached Jake slowly. Instead of attacking his mind, it gently touched his thoughts and shared what felt like gratitude. Dr. Rodriguez wiped tears from her eyes. Jake, the implications of this go far beyond military applications. If humans can rehabilitate these creatures, we could solve some of the galaxy's biggest problems. Colonies that have been abandoned due to monster attacks could be resettled. Trade routes that have been closed for decades could be reopened. More than that, Jake said, we could turn the galaxy's greatest threats into its greatest protectors. He stood up and gestured to the creatures around him. They're incredibly intelligent, they're incredibly powerful, and now they're incredibly loyal. Imagine what we could accomplish working together. Commander Vex's scales had returned to their normal gray-green color. Cadet Morrison, you have passed your trial. In fact, you have exceeded every expectation anyone could have had. Thank you, sir. But I think this is just the beginning. Jake looked up at the observation deck where dozens of faces from different species stared down at him in amazement. I think it's time for humanity to show the galaxy what we're really capable of. The arena fell quiet except for the gentle sounds of 17 former monsters who had found their purpose at last. News of Jake's demonstration spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. Within 6 hours, every major government from the core worlds to the outer rim had received detailed reports about the human cadet who could command monsters. Some reacted with wonder, others with fear, most with a combination of both. Jake spent the hours after his trial in a secure conference room with Dr. Rodriguez, Commander Vex, and a growing number of officials who arrived via emergency transport ships. The 17 creatures had been returned to their containment areas, but not before each one had gently touched Jake's hand in what could only be described as farewell. The Kralix Empire is demanding an immediate ban on human participation in the Defense Corps, Ambassador Korvac reported, as he entered the room for the third time that day. They consider your species a potential threat to galactic security. Jake looked up from the simple meal he was trying to eat. His hands were steady, but he felt exhausted from the day's events. What do the other species say? The Vexari want to recruit humans exclusively for monster suppression missions, Commander, Vex replied. The Saurian Council is split between fascination and terror. The Zelani are requesting immediate psychic evaluation of all humans. Dr. Rodriguez rubbed her temples. And Earth? Your planetary government is being very quiet, Korvac said. But our intelligence suggests they are mobilizing their xenobiology teams and requesting detailed information about every dangerous creature in our databases. They're scared too, Jake realized. Everyone's thinking about this as a weapon instead of an opportunity. Before anyone could respond, the conference room door opened. A tall, elegant being entered, followed by 2 guards. Jake recognized her, immediately from his academy studies. Senator Lydia Thorne, the Zelani representative to the Galactic Council, and one of the most powerful politicians in known space. Cadet Morrison, she said in the melodic voice of her people. I have traveled, here specifically to meet you. Jake stood and gave a respectful nod. Senator Thorne, it's an honor. The honor may be mine, she replied. What you accomplished today has never been seen before in recorded galactic history. I have come to understand what this means for all of us. She took a seat across from Jake, her large dark eyes studying him carefully. I am psychic, as you know. May I examine your thoughts while you demonstrate your ability? I'm not sure how to demonstrate it without the creatures present. We will arrange that, Senator Thorne said. But first, I must ask you a direct question. Do you see these creatures as weapons to be used against other species? Jake considered the question carefully. No, Senator. I see them as beings that have been misunderstood and mistreated. They're not evil. They're just acting on instincts that made sense in their original environments but cause problems in civilized space. And you believe you can change their behavior permanently? I think I can help them find better ways to use their instincts. But it would require ongoing partnership, not just one-time training. Senator Thorne nodded slowly. Show me. An hour later, Jake found himself back in the arena. But this time, the environment was completely different. Instead of the hostile caves of Hellion 7, the space had been transformed into a peaceful meadow under a blue sky. Soft grass covered the ground, and a gentle breeze carried the scent of flowers. 3 creatures had been selected for the demonstration: the Shadow Maw, the Crystal Spider, and the Mind Ripper. Each one entered the arena and immediately sought out Jake, taking positions around him like loyal guardians. Senator Thorne watched from the observation deck, her psychic abilities focused on reading both Jake's thoughts and the creature's emotional states. What I see is remarkable, she announced to the assembled observers. The human's mind shows no desire for conquest or domination. Instead, I sense genuine care and protective instinct. He sees these beings as individuals, not tools. She paused, her expression growing more serious. And the creatures, their minds are clearer than I have ever sensed before. The constant rage and confusion that usually defines them has been replaced by purpose and contentment. Jake demonstrated by having the creatures work together on complex tasks. The Shadow Maw used its strength to move objects. The Crystal Spider created precise tools from the arena's materials. The Mind Ripper coordinated their efforts using its psychic abilities to share information between them. They're not just following orders, Jake explained to the observers. They're thinking for themselves and choosing to cooperate. They understand that working together accomplishes more than fighting alone. Ambassador Korvac had been watching silently, but now he spoke up. This is all very impressive, but it does not address our primary concern. What happens when humans use this ability for military purposes? What happens when your species decides to conquer the galaxy using monster armies? Jake looked up at the observation deck. That's a fair question, but I think you're asking the wrong person. What do you mean? I'm just one human. I can't speak for my entire species, but I can tell you what I believe. Jake walked to the center of the arena, his 3 monster companions following him. These creatures aren't meant to be weapons. They're meant to be protectors. He gestured to the Shadow Maw. This creature destroyed a mining colony, but only because it was defending what it thought was its territory. If it had proper guidance, it could have protected that colony instead. The crystal spider created a small, intricate sculpture and offered it to Jake. They want to create, not destroy. They want to have purpose. They want to belong to something bigger than themselves. Senator Thorne's voice came through the communication system. Cadet Morrison, the Galactic Council is prepared to offer humanity full membership in the Defense Corps, but with certain conditions. What conditions? First, all humans who work with these creatures must undergo psychological evaluation to ensure they share your peaceful intentions. Second, human monster teams will be assigned to protective duties only, never offensive operations. Third, a joint oversight committee will monitor all human activities involving captured creatures. Jake nodded. Those sound reasonable, but I have a condition of my own. Name it. I want to establish a rehabilitation program, not just for the creatures we already have, but for others we encounter in the future. Instead of immediately classifying them as monsters and fighting them, I want us to try understanding them first. Dr. Mao. Rodriguez stepped forward in the observation deck. Jake's proposal has merit. Many of these creatures might be acting aggressively because they're lost, injured, or protecting young. With proper intervention, we could prevent conflicts before they start. Commander Vex's scales showed thoughtful green patterns. A rehabilitation program would require significant resources and personnel. I volunteer to lead it, Jake said. And I know other humans who would want to help. Senator Thorne was quiet for several minutes, clearly communicating with other council members through psychic channels. Finally, she spoke. The Galactic Council accepts your proposal, with one modification. You will not lead the program alone. You will work with representatives from multiple species to ensure balanced perspectives. I'd prefer it that way, Jake replied. This isn't something humans should do alone. It's something we should do together. 3 months later, Jake stood on the bridge of the research vessel New Horizons, watching a distress signal appear on the main screen. A cargo ship had been attacked by unknown creatures near the Proxima trade route. In the old days, the response would have been simple. Send military ships to hunt down and destroy the attackers. Today's response was different. Captain Davis, set course for the Proxima system, Jake said to the ship's commanding officer. Full speed. Captain Linda Davis nodded and began issuing orders. The New Horizons was unlike any ship in the Galactic Fleet. Half research vessel, half rescue ship, it carried a crew of humans, aliens, and reformed creatures working together. Jake, Dr. Rodriguez called from her station. I'm reading 3 unknown life forms on the long-range sensors, large, fast, and apparently very angry. Any idea what we're dealing with? Not yet, but the energy signatures suggest they're young, possibly juveniles separated from their family group. Jake smiled as he felt the familiar presence of his companions. The Shadow Maw stood beside the navigation station, its keen senses helping to track the unknown creatures. The crystal spider worked at the communications array, using its precise abilities to boost signal strength. The Mind Ripper coordinated with the ship's computer systems, processing vast amounts of data in seconds. Then let's go help some lost kids find their way home, Jake said. As the New Horizons jumped to hyperspace, Jake thought about the message he had received from his sister Katie that morning. She had completed her first year at the xenobiology program and would be joining his team next month. More importantly, she had news from Earth. Humanity had officially established the Monster Rehabilitation Corps, and volunteers were arriving at training facilities around the globe. The galaxy had been afraid of humanity's power over apex predators, but Jake had shown them something better than fear. He had shown them hope. The New Horizons dropped out of hyperspace near a damaged cargo ship. 3 massive creatures circled the vessel like sharks around wounded prey.